Welcome to Command Control Power, a weekly podcast hosted by 3 certified members of the Apple Consultants Network, drawing from over half a century of combined experience. We talk shop, interview vendors and colleagues, and share what we've learned while operating our technology consulting practices. This is Joe Saponari of CyMac, and my 2 co-hosts are Jerry Zigman of MacWorks and Sam Valencia of the HCS Technology Group. For the freshest content, a peek behind the scenes, and more candid conversation about running our businesses, dealing with clients, fixing tough technical issues, and everything else you love about Command Control Power, we invite you to join us on Patreon so you don't miss any of this great content. Go to commandcontrolpower.com and click support. Pledge monthly, and you can instantly subscribe to the patron-only shows right in your favorite podcast app. Once again, to join us on Patreon and get the latest patron-only episodes, visit commandcontrolpower.com and click support. We hope to see you there, and thanks for listening. Welcome back to Command Control Power. Jon Brown, Vice President of Technology and Cybersecurity at Interlaced. And listeners may remember Jon as the owner of Grove, which is now powered by Interlaced. So, Jon, thanks for joining us on Command Control Power again.
Yeah, happy to be here, guys. Thanks for having me back.
Yeah, always good to talk with you. And thanks again for your support. I think that's the other place where listeners will remember your name and company from your strong support of Command Control Power for many years now. So we really appreciate that. And listeners may have noticed the logo change. So you're now Grove powered by Interlaced. So we're excited to talk to you a little bit about how that merger has gone and how you make that delineation between Grove and Interlaced and wear those different hats and all. Yeah, congratulations on the merger, by the way.
Yeah, thanks. I think the last time I was here, I was still evaluating partnerships in terms of companies that were courting me at the time. And we talked a little bit about the merger and acquisitions process. And I think the one thing that was a real factor for me in making the decision ultimately to join forces was the key distinction between how much value does my company have and what is the end goal for me and the business and my clients. I think majority of the situations that I was in when we were on the last call, folks were looking to acqui-hire me. There wasn't a lot of value put on the business or on the clients or the client experience as we were to push forward. If I had pushed forward in that type of a manner or way, that just wouldn't have been, I don't think, a good end result. But with Interlaced, we found a pretty good common ground where they valued the book of business, they valued the clients. We were doing a lot of the same kind of work, just in different geographic areas. They're a very well-known and established Apple MSP out in the San Diego area. We're pretty well-known and established in the DC area. So it was a good fit. But I just want to highlight, it wasn't one that we entered into lightly, right? The last time we talked was about a year ago, and I had started that conversation with Interlaced about a year prior. So the entire process from beginning to end was about a 2-year process to get to the point where I was made the decision, and then another 8 months, and here I am today.
Nice. Yeah, it sounds like a process, but a lot of due diligence on that. And as you mentioned, the various companies courting you and trying to evaluate which one would be the best fit. I'm wondering why nobody's courting me. Sam, is anybody courting you? Or Jerry, are you being courted actively by some companies that want to acqui-hire you?
On the West Coast companies, yeah. I beat them off with a stick, Joe.
Exactly, right. That says a lot about how your business runs. And I noticed Sam didn't answer. Sam, maybe you are being actively courted and you just don't want to mention it.
John's texting me on the side right now.
That's right. I'm like, don't say anything about the merger.
It does say a lot about you, Jon, and your skill set and how you've been running your business, that you did create the value to have these companies looking to merge with you and hopefully add value on both sides. I thought that's really interesting how you did turn down the companies that seem to be more interested in the acqui-hire of you personally, because I imagine that doesn't necessarily fit with a longer term plan, in that if they see the value is really in you, then you have to stay in that role and stay on to keep gaining value on your side. Whereas if they value your business higher than necessarily you personally, I think it's just a little bit easier to decouple those things. In the first scenario where they're hiring you, you're essentially a glorified employee of your own business in that scenario. So that's great that they valued the business side of things so much. So how does that break down geographically, and how do you put the hat on of VP of Technology and Cybersecurity at Interlaced versus running Grove? And is there a process you're heading toward where everything is under one umbrella ultimately?
Yeah, all great questions. I guess I will echo a sentiment that I heard from another supporter of the show and a host of the Mac Admins podcast, Tom Bridge, who basically said after he also left his business to work at JumpCloud, owner-operators tend to become very bad employees because they aren't used to working under a construct that they don't have any control over. So I certainly went through that and still am going through that sort of transition. The one thing that's been very helpful in that transition is the autonomy that I still have in terms of running the business or the book of business here in the DC area. So I'm still running the day-to-day operations. I'm still meeting with the clients on a regular basis, and I'm still actively taking on new clients and being charged with maintaining the DC market and overseeing the business as a separate entity, a branch of Interlaced, right? Grove Technology is powered by Interlaced, but essentially trying to draw some very clear lines, right? The West Coast market they're very good at running their business on the West Coast in the West Coast market, but they don't know a lot about the East Coast market. So the last thing they want to do is come in and impose a lot of change to the clients right after acquiring the business to bring or introduce uncertainty. So I'm here to continue to maintain growth and stability in this area, but to promote the larger offerings that we have, right? So the way that we approached it with our clients was we are the same company, we have the same technicians, we're going to approach technology in the same way that we have in the past, which is a very relationship heavy and a relationship focused approach. One of the main reasons why I chose Interlace was because that's also the same way that they run their business, right? When you're looking at being acquired or selling your business or whatever, it's not really about you and the money that you're going to get. That's a great byproduct of the sale or the acquisition. But I was really focused heavily on how will my clients be impacted? Because at the end of the day, if I sell the business and the clients aren't happy and they leave, then what have I built? What have I been working towards? The goal here is to continue to serve my clients and to do right by them. Right. So that's my role in a nutshell. In the transition, what we're moving towards is a more unified company. We are acquisition number 2 for this company. So they actually acquired a company in Los Angeles called 318. 318 might sound familiar to some of your viewers because I believe Charles Edge worked there as the CTO back in the day. And funny story, I guess people are still looking for Charles to this day. So they were acquisition number 1, and then we were acquisition number 2. So they were acquired about a year prior to us, and they're still going through their integration. The DC market is a little far removed, so we were easier to merge in because the only thing we're really synchronizing around on our side is tool sets and back-end office administration, which was the biggest burden for me. And one of the factors for wanting to sell the business was as the owner operator, and I think everyone on the show has commented about this before, where I am too busy working in the business to work on the business, and it was really causing a lot of problems for me and forcing me to look inward and say, I can't really grow this anymore without completely stepping back. But if I did step back, I would have to hire a whole team of people, and that would really put me in the red. In order to move forward, I would have to take some major financial steps backwards. So that was one of the main reasons why I wanted to sell the business, so that the business could continue to grow and so that I could continue to focus on what I really loved, which is servicing the clients and providing amazing service. But with the merger of 318 and now Grove, the goal is to become one unified team. Right now, we're in the phase where all of our tool sets have been merged. All back office systems have been merged. Right now, what we're doing is probably the most tumultuous part of the process, which is aligning on best practices how we're going to run the business together. Right now, every business unit, LA, DC, and San Diego, we're all running independently with our own business rules, with our own plans and pricing, which is causing a lot of, I wouldn't say problems, but it's causing a lot of challenges in terms of growth strategy.
I did have a question because of what you mentioned in your inability to work on the business because of what you were doing. So now that you've done this, has that provided a chance for you to step back perhaps from tech support in some way and allow some of, I don't know, Interlaced staff to take some of that burden from you? Or is that not part of the game yet?
So we just finished the integration of the ticketing systems, which was the biggest roadblock and hurdle to getting the larger and wider technical team to get their eyes on the issues that were coming in from our clients. So there was a concern that if we had technicians in too many ticketing systems, and at the time when we were acquired, we each had a separate ticketing system. So it wasn't until recently, I would say about a month ago, that we were all in one unified ticketing system, which has been super helpful. But now the hesitation is, now that I can see the monster that's on your side and you can see the monster that's on our side, and we are all collectively overwhelmed with the amount of work that we all have on our plates, we're all a little hesitant to jump in and offer support. So right now the strategy is, let's just start introducing client by client, one technician at a time, 1 week at a time, a little bit of an intro, so that if so-and-so who is really on top of client A does decide to go on vacation or get sick, we have other people who are at least familiar with that client set, right? So the idea here is we're going to do a little bit of a rotation. We're going to start learning each other's clients. It'll be in a low impact kind of way, and we're all here to support each other. And as we're doing that, I think the fear on the larger staff is, now I'm volunteering for extra work and I'm already feeling overwhelmed. But the idea here is that if we're all sharing the load, there should be less fear of being overwhelmed, because now everyone on the team feels more empowered to be able to actually take time off.
Yeah. How many people are on the Interlaced team on the tech support side?
So on the total size of the technical team, I think we're right around 35 technicians.
Ooh, wow. Okay.
Wow.
I could use that kind of help.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would say the largest company in the three is Interlaced in San Diego, and they have about 250 clients, and they have about 18 or 19 or so technicians servicing that book of business. We're a small team of 3. We've got about 35 clients, and then LA is rounding out the total there. In terms of total employee size, though, I would say that we're right around 65 full-time employees. So we're talking about project managers, client success managers, and then leadership, non-technical staff at the top level.
Wow. Yeah.
It's like Cymac at its prime, Joe.
Yeah, exactly. I can relate to the trying to grow the business and setting myself back financially into the red, making that kind of an attempt. So I can definitely speak from experience on the sort of like pitfalls of trying to grow a team from 1 to 3 people, adding 1 or 2 more. They really need to be producing from day one. And of course, like, you do some of this stuff on paper and you say in a 40-hour week, someone can surely bill like this many hours and then ramp up to this many, and then everybody profits and we're all super happy. And then it turns out that the person has to be really perfect for the role, and they have to be ready to go fully trained. Or we've talked about this at length in the past, but need to end up spending time training that person to replace you or to serve the needs of the company and the clients, where does that time come from? You're setting yourself back also with time as well. It's a real challenge. So I can definitely see the difficulties there and the appeal of joining an operation that has already gone through those growing pains and gotten to scale. The goal with merging in general is that you should be able to achieve an economy of scale where everyone benefits, because like you're describing, you can share some of the back office tasks, the administration of your clients and things like that. And then that's where you start to benefit, is when you do have the processes in place to be able to serve the clients overall. So I'm wondering, like, you've described some of the challenges of getting the various techs from the different branches mutually trained on each other's clients. Mm-hmm. Is there also a back office challenge there with, especially as you put it, different business rules or processes on the admin side? Do you have to train the overall team who's fielding tickets and things with each company's structure and like offerings and pricing structures and things like that, so that they can serve those clients and understand what the deals are that are in place, in fact?
Yeah, 100%. The Interlaced, this is more of a all-you-can-eat type of pricing model per seat, and they have a very structured, here's what you get for the money that you pay for, and it's a standard set of tools with a standard operating procedure for how to manage each tool. The LA side bills time and materials, so their business model is more around tracking and metrics, and they have a standard set of tools, but it's based around best practices. So if you're a Microsoft shop and you have all Windows computers, they're not exclusive to Apple anymore. So they would recommend an all Microsoft setup. With us, we're very boutique, right? So clients will come to us and say, hey, I work with the DoD. I need to be XYZ compliant, and here are the tools that I have. Can you make them compliant for us? Can you maintain what we already have? And we're like, sure. The Interlaced folks, they don't know any of the tool sets of the clients that we have. We're billing per seat with a hourly cap, so we're even more custom in terms of how we're tracking time. So that adds a lot of confusion to the technical team, right? Where one team is, they're not worried about tracking time. It's all you can eat. So they come over and help, and they start tracking their time, not really knowing best practices. And suddenly our clients are in overage, and I look at time entries and it's, yeah, half of these shouldn't have been billed. 5 minutes here, 2 minutes there. It adds up, and it just points to that internal inefficiencies. Couple on top of that, though, that's just the technical team, and I think we can all relate to that. But what about billing changes, right? We all bill at different cycles. We all bill at different intervals, and we all have different billing because of that. That's hourly type of and all-you-can-eat type of models. And we're all technically on different terms and conditions. So there are things that are excluded from our contracts that are not excluded from a 318 contract versus an Interlaced contract. So that's where we're at now, trying to standardize around those things so that we can provide a more unified service offering. But the idea here is, how do we do it in a way that's seamless to the client in all three brands, transparent, and introduces very little change. And when we do, we provide some clear upside so that it's an acceptable value add versus a net loss. So a lot of that takes time, strategy, clear communication with clients. As we've been going through this process, we have regular check-ins with our clients every month. We're asking, how is it going? How are you feeling with the merger? Do you feel like it's been impactful to you, to your business? Do you feel like you're still getting value out of this relationship? And we're working very hard to maintain, not just from a retention standpoint, but maintaining those relationships, those people relationships that you've built those relationships. You don't want to see them suffer because of a choice that you've made.
Yeah, for sure. Especially when a lot of clients might have a cynical expectation that when a company that's going just fine merges with another company, it's out of greed or some like business reasons that doesn't necessarily benefit them. That might be, they may be prone to thinking that. So you definitely want to go even above and beyond to make sure that they're still feeling taken care of and understanding that this is in their interest to have better coverage and more standard offerings and better support in general. So that's great that you're checking in regularly. I'm curious if you know this meme, how it started versus how it's going. How did you envision this process happening with, I'm sure through that long due diligence process, discovered that you're operating under different kind of words and practices. How did you envision everything coalescing versus how it's going now?
Yeah. So I think one thing that I just want to say outright, because it touches on where we left off on the last topic, but I didn't decide to sell the business because I was looking for a large payday. I was looking to continue the work of creating a large nationwide Apple focused MSP. And I realized after trying pitching VCs, looking at alternate growth strategies, looking at ways that I could keep the business going without going into a tremendous amount of debt, just seemed like the least path of friction was to partner with a company that was already backed by a venture capital firm. So that was the main reason for the merge. It was like, how can I continue to work towards my ultimate goal of building this nationwide company? So there was a financial upside in the initial sale, but the message that we're telling our clients is this is going to benefit you in the long run, because as we grow and scale, we're going to continue to improve upon our service, etc. In terms of like how I envisioned it, that was very much how I was envisioning it, right? I'm going to come in to this really amazing team, and I am going to start getting a lot of amazing support, and I am going to start providing some real value to my clients. I think when I first came in, I was expecting that to happen very rapidly. And I also was expecting to go through the stages of change, right? So I think that the stages of change are very similar to like the stages of grief, where you're like very excited at the beginning, then reality is starting to set in a little bit. You're going through stages where you're like, man, I'm getting frustrated, regretting the decision that I made, and I'm going through a mini grieving process. And then there's like a reconciliation. So I knew that I was going to go through those stages, because as I was merging, I had to start letting go of the various different roles and responsibilities and things that I was doing. What I thought would happen was that I would be very excited to let go of those things and really embrace what I enjoyed doing. What I learned was that it was difficult for me to let go of the things that I've been doing for the last 7 years, a lot more difficult than I thought I was going to be. So there was a lot of personal reflection and conversations internally. Luckily for me, we were merger number 2, so I was able to find comfort and partners on the 318 side who had been going through the process a little bit longer and earlier than me, they were able to guide me through those different stages. But where we are today took a lot longer than I had anticipated. I feel like every decision and choice that we had made to get where we are today was a good, thoughtful, strategic choice, but there was a lot of frustration. There was a lot of, did I make the right choice along the way? Hindsight, though, remembering, right? I think that's the thing about the change is you always think back and you remember the good and what you gave up, but you don't remember all the bad that you were going through and the struggles that you had. And so from a nuts and bolts perspective, I'm definitely better off now than I was when I started. And I'm definitely still happy with the decision that I made.
Yeah, I would say you've hit every point that I was thinking about as you start the initial piece of making that conversation all the way up to where you are now, and you hit those different stages that I was wondering about. Like, was there elation? Was there grief? Was there? And it's funny. Even before I got to ask it, it was like that's exactly what I wanted to know.
Yeah, no, it was a lot, and there was a lot of what I consider to be business and emotional intelligence on the leadership team at the Interlaced HQ when we were going through just the initial diligence phase. They were warning me like, hey, before you put pen to paper, be 100% sure that you are ready for what's next, because business owner operators who sell their business, they will go through a stage where they ultimately regret the purchase, and it's our job to make sure that we're guiding you through this process as much as letting you go through it, so that because we care about you, we care about your clients, and we care about the merger, and knowing that, and that was another reason why I was like, okay, it's pretty clear that they care about me, they care about the clients, they care about the business. It just made it that much easier to make the decision. I just didn't think that it would be as impactful as it was as I was going through those stages. I think I was aware of it and I acknowledged it and I said I was ready for it. One day you wake up and you had a really hard day. When you're the business owner operator, at the end of that day, you can say, I worked really hard and I struggled for something that was mine, that I owned. And when you're working as an employee of a company, even though you founded it and you started it and you're continuing to grow it, you're starting to wonder at times, where is your place at this company? Even though it's very clear and delineated, you start to have second thoughts, and it's a very real thing.
Jon, in some of your strategic planning, now that the merger has fully taken place, as Joe mentioned earlier in the conversation, it's always a challenge to expand your team, grow your team, and there's a financial burden there. Was there a roadmap for you that was provided by your buyer that said, look, once we do this acquisition, we're going to give you the ability to hire on 3-5 people. So we're not only going to allow you to add more clients in the DC area, but we're going to allow you to better manage your existing client base?
I want to say yeah, but the answer was no.
All right.
Yeah.
So if that's the answer, then how does that feel where you're not driving the car anymore, right? Somebody else is driving the car. You're in the front seat, though, because you're vice president. And they tell you, we're going to go down this road. And if you were driving, you would have gone down the other road. Metaphorically speaking.
How does that make me feel? That happens all the time.
It makes me feel great. That must be a tough thing to negotiate.
Yeah, I think that there's the deviation of the direction. I wouldn't have made that choice. There's that. Then there's also just working in an environment that's conducive. Any work environment with a large number of staff is going to be conducive to some sort of office politics. So add a little bit of that into the mix as well. And then add a lot of uncertainty in terms of who's supposed to be doing what.
Tricky.
That sort of, it's very tricky to navigate. And so we're all trying to figure out that we're all contributing to and advising on the best course of action. There's a certain amount of trust that you just have to make in the organization at large, where it's okay, you've made it this far, you've been successful, you've made mistakes, and I've seen you make mistakes even while I've been here, and I've seen failures. But it's how do we recover from that as a team? Are we learning and growing? Are we, in general, moving in the right direction? We're not moving backwards. I think all of those things combined still leave me with a fairly positive outlook, even if it's not exactly how I would have done it. I think learning to work as a team means learning to let go of your own perfection around how you would have done things.
Very good.
That's very hopeful, even in the struggles, that it's in service of that learning. You're paying a learning cost, so to speak. And I think a lot of times we don't really factor in the learning cost, the true cost of learning the lessons and growing and improving, and especially in that collaborative way when you're merging 3 fully operational companies and trying to mesh the various ways that this is done and agreements with the clients and expectations clients have and things like that, and shifting the role, your role as the owner, calling all the shots, to a member of a team where those calls are made in different ways. So it's really interesting as a case study. I'm sure a lot of our listeners will really get the benefit of hearing you describe this process, and you've been so candid in what you've been able to share. So really appreciate that. I want to ask you another kind of unrelated question, but does anyone else have anything to cover on this topic? Or Jon, did you want to say anything else to put a bow on the conversation about the merger?
Yeah, I think that the hurdle that I wasn't as ready for, and the thing that kind of took me off guard, was I came into the team and I had built this thing and I was very comfortable where I was as the business owner operator. And I just assumed that I would continue to feel that level of comfort in continuing to build my book of business. I think that when you're working in a large group, in a large team, especially one as large as Interlaced, it's going to inherently feel chaotic, and it is chaotic. I think the one thing that I feel like I should have known, but am learning like the hard way, is you get to a certain point in your business and you're running it and you're comfortable and you have to make a decision. Am I going to continue to grow and move into an uncomfortable state, or am I going to stay in this business and grow it where I'm still comfortable? And for me, moving and selling the business really threw me into this like world of uncertainty, and this world where I was not comfortable. But before the business, when I was an employee at various different companies, I really thrived off of that type of environment, being in a situation where I was constantly learning new things, and I was forced to learn those things because I was helping drive that company forward by the initiatives that I was working on. It really harkened back to those days, and it really did reignite my passion for the technology and my desire to continue to learn and grow in technology. I think that a little bit of that had waned as I had grown my business and moved into more of an operator type of role. So all in all, I feel like it was a good trade-off. Traded off a lot of comfort for a more of a reinvigoration, passion for learning and driving technology forward.
Nice. Awesome. Congratulations again on the success of the merger and going through it and getting through it. And I think the other guiding light that you called attention to is like really just putting the clients first and really always considering the client's satisfaction and will they be served long term. And that's always really worked well for me too. Even just going way back to when we're thinking about the concept of lock-in and artificial lock-in. And it never really sat well with me because I feel the client, if they want to leave, I don't want to keep them against their will. And if you put the clients first, I think you can make a lot of good decisions that follow from that. And clearly that was a big factor for you. So that's probably led a lot to the success of the project. And looking forward to hearing another check-in maybe in the next year or so as things continue to proceed on that. Yeah, good work and keep us posted.
Yeah, thanks. I'm locked in for 3 years with Interlaced. That was part of the agreement. I'm going to stick around and maintain the book of business for at least 3 years. So as I progress through this journey, I'll definitely be keeping you guys posted.
Awesome. I have one more quick unrelated question I wanted to ask you about Apple Messages for Business. I think you had mentioned that when we last spoke. And I looked into it a little bit recently and found that you need to identify is it an MSP, which is used in it's the same acronym, different meaning. It's like, maybe you know better than I do. I don't have it top of mind, but it's like something like a voice provider or something like that.
Right. Yep.
And so you need to identify a company that can integrate with Apple Messages for Business, and that may involve changing your VoIP provider, or maybe this is a bolted on separate thing from a different provider. But can you speak a little bit about your experience with that? And also I'm curious, speaking of benefiting the clients, do people find that there's a lot of value in you having that as an offering for a way of accessing your support?
Yeah, I think so. Right now, I would say 50% of our support comes through chat. 30% of that is coming through the SMS channel, and the rest of it is coming through Apple Business Chat. We use a platform called Haymarket, and Haymarket is a group text line SMS first support system. It integrates with Slack and other tools, and they can integrate directly with your page, Twitter page, etc. So you can feed in a lot of inputs from different sources, and then you use the back end of Haymarket like a ticketing system. Essentially, your texts and chats come in as different inbox threads, and you can have threaded conversations with each person. So right now, all of our technicians have access to it. It's integrated with Apple Business Chat. And it was one of the only platforms on the market that I could find, at least at the time, this was about 2 years ago, that was doing that beta program. I actually thought it was strange that Apple had released Apple Business Chat many years ago, and it didn't really take off until semi-recently, and it's still not where I think it could be or should be. I think they really targeted large corporate businesses versus the smaller end of the spectrum. But I really feel like it is the future of tech support. It's a pretty amazing platform. We love it. It integrates really well with the Apple Business Register. When I think that, I don't know if you guys saw, but Apple actually released the registration for businesses to manage their business listing on Apple Maps, and it integrates right into that same platform. So you integrate it there, you would associate it to your business brand, and you pick your colors, you upload your logo, and it changes the way that messages displays your company and your brand when people interact with you on Apple Maps and in other places within the Apple ecosystem. It's a very frictionless and amazing support experience.
I think clients clearly, as Apple support people, they would expect us to support getting help that way. I'm curious if it's separate from your business phone number, though, right? It's its own. Yeah. Okay. So it can be a totally different provider, and you can just add the little bubble or whatever link on your website and those other channels and just do support that way. I'm also looking for a group SMS provider. I've gotten some good feedback from the Mac Admin Slack and the ACN channel where I asked about there's that support group SMS, because we use Ring Central as of now for years. I'm not thrilled with their level of support. And this feature in particular, they've been promising for a long time and not really rolling out. We want the ability to easily receive an SMS from a client and then have the ability for multiple support people to reply on that thread from the company number. And right now we can't do that. We can reply from our own extension, basically our own number. But I think other providers do support that. So I guess now I'm learning that's a separate kind of function. Like you can deal with SMS in that way, but then also tack on Apple Biz Chat or messages for business.
100%. We started out, we're pretty big users of OnSIP, and OnSIP doesn't have any text messaging at all, but on their back end, they can peel off the configuration for text on the number, and they can redirect any inbound SMS traffic to any third-party provider. So we were able to keep the same number that we were using for voice traffic, have voice go to OnSIP, text passing through OnSIP, and making its way to Haymarket, where the tool itself integrates with, like I said, a variety of different platforms. And so it's not just Apple Business Chat. If someone hits us up on our Google page listing and they start chatting with us there, it feeds back into Haymarket as well. So it's pretty powerful and pretty convenient for us. Two of the biggest things that we use it for, obviously client support on the front end, but on the back end, multi-factor authentication codes.
Oh, yes. I had to recently add another number because my two-step authentication with Apple had just met its quota for all the Apple IDs I've tested over the years. So having another number or something like that is better. But I did have a follow-up to this because I am always curious about this, because I had a customer that they submit tickets as they normally do, but now we're in a integrated Slack channel where their company and our company can Slack each other, and they prefer to reach out in that method because it's more real time, it's more immediate. And that in turn creates a situation where they feel the support response should be also more immediate. So do you use this in just your opening communication with a customer or just for ongoing support? And how does that affect the response time that they anticipate from using SMS?
We're very clear on the correct usage of each support channel, right? When we onboard a client, we say, we have 3 ways that you can contact us. If it's a standard request and you're okay with waiting up to 30 minutes, then email us. If you are having an issue with email and you can't email us, you can call us. If you're having an emergency and you need help right away, you can text us. And we hold people to the type of request that we get in each channel. So if someone calls with a non-urgent request, we get as much information as we can and we try to schedule them for an appointment as soon as we can. If someone texts us with a non-urgent request, we're getting as much information as we can and we're sending them our booking link and instructing them to find a time to meet with us. So we set those boundaries and clear lines in each channel, and we give our clients the flexibility to hit us up in any channel, and we give them the discretion and the instructions, and then we just hope for the best.
Right.
But so far, it's been working out pretty well. I think the other automations that come into play when you have a good ticketing system and you've got a good round robin phone system and you've got a good SMS-based chat system is you can put rules in place, you can put autoresponders in place, you can put hunt groups in place that will ensure that even if you're not available to take the call or to answer the chat, they are aware that, hey, they're next in queue, or we're not available right now. Leave us as much detail and we'll get back to you. And I think clients realize like they can't always expect real time. We're still very much at working with our clients and telling them like, yes, we are a larger company. We are many technicians, but it's still going to take time for us to really tap into that deeper bench of knowledge and grow. We're growing with you. We're still a small team. And so we're still approaching our support channels that same way. All that to say that our back-end ticketing system has been joined forces there, but our phone systems and our text systems are still separate, primarily because of the regional numbers that everyone is used to calling and the regional text lines and platforms that we're used to giving our clients. The one channel, the Apple Business Chat, has been rebranded to the Interlaced larger channel. So if you were to find our Apple Business Chat on Apple Maps, Interlaced or Grove Technologies powered by Interlaced, and you started chatting with us, you would see the Interlaced logo and the Interlaced color scheme.
Which channel do you prefer, John, when someone is actively courting you for an acqui-hire? Do you have a preferred method of contact for that? I assume messages maybe, because then they can just Apple Pay you and
ACH.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, it's always interesting, like with expectations from clients, like you said, I mean, they clearly, like, people have an expectation that texting will be basically immediate. And same thing with Slack. And even to the point where if you don't get back to them right away and then you get back to them later, there's a pretty good chance they're just like, oh, that was like yesterday's problem. It's solved now. I don't need you anymore. Meanwhile, you've spun up a ticket and did everything. And so if you don't act immediately, like, they can just let that thread fall off their radar. It's an interesting struggle to try to reset expectations as time goes on. And then there's times where I'm just like, I wish I just had an easy system to text a person right now, because I know that would work better for me too. I just often don't want to like establish that as the baseline where they just think they can text me anytime and get help immediately, because that seems to be the expectation that it always reverts back to.
That's the beauty of Haymarket. I can set a schedule and I can say after this hour, send an automatic reply saying we're not available right now. We'll get back to you at X time. And for me, actually, the Haymarket platform really love any sort of, whether it's an SMS based thing or whether it's coming in from Apple Business Chat, because most of the customers that we have also have Splashtop installed. And if they're having a problem, I can just chat them and say, hey, send me a code, and I can just pop right into their system. I know that they're already not wanting to talk with me because they chose that method. And more often than not, I can be on the phone with someone and chatting and controlling someone's screen and helping multiple people at the same time, which I find super convenient.
Oh, totally. Yeah. I hate sitting there watching a progress bar and making small talk with the client live on the phone.
You were just talking about this today, Joe.
Yeah. And the more you have that line of communication open, the more they're just telling you all the backstory of all kinds of things you really don't need to know as you're trying to you just know the solution, but it's just a matter of time. So it's great if they give you that unattended access and then you can multitask. You can benefit from that. So that sometimes billing multiple clients in the scope of that when you're waiting for things. I'm going to check that out. It's on my list now to explore those options further. But that's interesting. The last question on that I have is, what do you do for those off hours? Do you have a expressed service level agreement or any kind of after hours support, or is it just a case by case thing?
So we're 9 to 5 Monday through Friday, and we're still maintaining those operating hours. If it's an extreme situation, Interlaced HQ is 24/7, so they have people that are on rotation and taking calls and primarily doing level 1 in after hours, and then they have an after hours weekend crew that does on-call rotation. schedule. So we've been able to tap into the existing 24/7 business model of the larger organization and get basic support, which seems to be when we need it, when it's an emergency and someone is really in need of talking to someone after hours. At the end of the day, it really is, in most cases, a level 1 issue that just happens to be after hours, where it's like a password reset, or I just have a question about this weird suspicious email that I got really late at night. So we haven't had any issues that have been reported after hours, but I think that we've always set that expectation that we're not available, and clients are signing up knowing that. I think the value add as we continue to grow with our clients and as we start to merge with the larger organization is that our business models, our SLAs will become more unified and will give people more opportunity to contact us any time of the day. For me, I'm still very much operating the business like a business owner. So like I'll be sitting on my computer at 7 a.m. watching TV, having breakfast, drinking some coffee, and I'll get a text on the Haymarket line. Haymarket's, hey, we're not open till 9. And I'm like, I know who this person is. I know that they just probably have a quick question. I'll just chat with them real quick. And then after I do, I shoot them my Google review link and they leave me a nice little review. So I think there's always opportunities to go above and beyond and to delight the customer. So I'm always very aware of those opportunities, especially when it's very low risk for me. But if we're all busy and we're all in meetings, we do our best to work as a team and get back to folks. With Apple Business Chat, it makes it even easier in my view. And the reason why we started embracing it was we had gone through an employee cycle where we had an employee leave, and a good portion of our client knowledge of how this technician had interacted with a few clients was predominantly over text messages to the technician's cell phone. So the idea here was that we learned that there's value in the historical references that people were making in SMS-based chats, whether it's pictures that people were sending us of their issues or just a record of all of the issues that they've had. The beauty of it is it's searchable, it's indexable, it never goes away. You can add people to it, you can remove people from it, and it just becomes a part of your collective knowledge base.
Yeah, that's huge. Even for just something as simple as a client says, I called you 2 weeks ago, still waiting. And it's like, I have your email right here and there's no voicemail, there's no phone calls. So you're lying or you're just remembering it. But it is nice to have that all of that stuff on record just to see the historical chat. No, that's a great point as well.
Yeah, John, you've made a very strong case for using SMS with clients, and I've been doing it now for a while, and I've been being able to successfully manage expectations with clients. And if somebody abuses the privilege, you can certainly say, hey, this channel is not designed for what we're using it for, and best to send me an email or best to schedule an on-site appointment. But I love what you just expressed, how you can delight someone by offering them support as you're having a cup of coffee before the office officially opens. That was just so eloquently put. And hurrah for SMS. And Sam and Joe need to get with the program.
Yeah,
I'm always 2 years behind Jerry.
No, it's super great. It helps put you in front of clients wherever you happen to be. So if you're on site and someone is needing a quick hand or a link to an article, you're driving down the road, you can pull over, you can have that very quick conversation with clients. The way that I phrase it is, and I told my clients very clearly, this is not my personal cell phone number. I'm never going to give you my personal cell phone number. This is a group text line. And I made sure that they understood that there are multiple people reading these texts, because at the onset of telling people this is my text line, I was getting some non-group friendly messages. And I was like, just to let you know, there are 3 or 4 people reading these. And they were like, okay, great. So this is a business thing. I'm like, yes, this is a business thing. This is not a place where you can yell, vent, or otherwise share your feelings about issues. If you're having those types of events, feel free to call us. We'll have meetings with you. We have client success manager, et cetera, that can help you through whatever issues you're having. this really is dedicated for, you're having an issue, we're here to help you, and it could be me or it could be someone else in my. And once I established those norms, it became a very fruitful platform. Interlaced HQ in LA, they're big proponents of doing what Sam is doing, which is shared Slack channels with their clients. I'm actually more fearful of that approach than I am text messages, because I feel like there's less of that barrier. Even there's less rules you can put around it than the rules that I've put around text message.
Agreed. And there's this expectation with Slack that it's always on. Where were you? I texted you 2 hours ago in Slack and you didn't answer.
I would say that's the same on the SMS side.
John said he could shut it down. Yeah.
Yeah, you can have at least on the platform that we're using, you can have a message that will pop up after a set hourly window. I say like 9 to 5, and it will say, hey, we're closed, leave a message, etc. The clients know it's not your personal phone. They know it's not going to a device, even though it is. And they're aware that this is a business function. And I think Slack is so ingrained on the personal day-to-day that when you say Slack, even though it is a tool for business, it's not perceived that way. It's perceived as it's just a part of my life. And it's an extension of me getting what I'm used to, which is an instant response to any person that I message. It's not just I'm expecting that from you as an IT service provider on Slack, but I'm expecting everyone on Slack to respond to me right away.
I would say that there's a lot more similarities though, because you can put away on Slack. You can also put a message that you're not available or the team's not available. I feel like SMS and Slack both have that immediacy to it if it's during normal business hours. So I do like the fact that you can do like a round robin or just have multiple phones on that, and it comes through Apple Maps and for that Apple Business messages. But I think there's a lot more similarities than differences though. Everyone feels that they are immediate services, and whether or not that's true.
Yeah. Do you ever get, Sam, the like an @channel message? There's cake in the break room. Happy birthday, Jimmy. It's like, I did not need to see that, but it interrupted my day here.
People are the worst.
Right. Or you get added to the like general channel, or it's just like you're talking about the football game or something. Not that I could just imagine these different pitfalls of Slack. And I'm not a big fan of their interface. And that's my other kind of downfall there, but I'm definitely going to look into this Haymarket system. And John, does that mean like you've registered like essentially your main company phone number, like the same phone number they would call, they can like SMS that as well, and it goes into the group chat in Haymarket?
Yeah, that's correct.
Nice. Okay,
that's cool.
You can get numbers directly from Haymarket too, and you can just use the number that they give you. And if you do have a number through Haymarket that's different from your phone number, you can set that number to automatically forward to any other number in the off chance that someone tries calling that number, because it's not they're not a VoIP provider, but they can redirect phone calls.
Got it. Yeah, I learned that recently. Like, I didn't realize that you could have the same phone number registered with a VoIP provider for phone and have the same phone number registered separately for SMS through a different provider. That's a nice feature, since in my case, RingCentral doesn't offer great SMS support, and you may find a provider that does more in the realm of the messaging and just want to have a phone through different providers.
John,
that's great.
I'm signing Joe up for the Haymarket right now. So I guess he would want the Plus plan because he needs automations. You need automations to do those auto replies, right?
You need the automations
So I'm going to sign you up for the $39 a month.
What about me, Jerry?
How many users do you have, Joe? Because it's $39 per user.
I got 3
All
users.
All right, so $90.
And Jerry, this is great, man. You held me accountable to switching away from TeamViewer a few months ago, and I followed through on that. I switched to Splashtop finally.
Oh, wow, it's about time.
I'm just going to let Jerry run my company here.
We moved on to something else since then.
Oh, yeah.
I think we're seeing the beginnings of a merger here. That's all I'm saying.
Nice.
Yeah, economy of scale all the way for the win.
Every time you mentioned acqui-hire, I was always thinking about a job at SeaWorld or something like that.
Acqui-hire.
There you go.
Nice. John, it's been great talking with you again. Thanks for the update on the merger. It was really interesting to hear about how that's going, and I'm sure a lot of listeners will find that really interesting as well. And yeah, you're always a wealth of knowledge and like running the business and customer satisfaction and service. So thanks again for joining us.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's great to be here. Thanks, guys.
spins his deeply detailed yarns all the time.
I have a whole story about this.
Sam is on the road again, phoning in from a hotel.
At least we know where I am.